The crimson warning lights bathed the bridge of the dreadnought. Vengeance of Krill in an ominous glow as Fleet Admiral Vex Corvain stared at the tactical display with growing disbelief. 47 of the galaxy's most advanced warships hung motionless in the void around the mining colony of Zarian 7, their weapons trained on a single unremarkable cargo vessel floating dead in space, barely 3 kilometers away. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Status report. Corvain's voice cut through the tense silence. On the bridge. His 4 arms worked methodically across multiple control panels, while his compound eyes tracked every detail of the situation that had rapidly spiraled beyond anyone's expectations. Lieutenant Commander the Morven, his second in command, consulted her readings with visible confusion. Sir, the target vessel shows no energy signatures, no life support systems active, no defensive shields. Long-range scans indicate a single human life form aboard, but... She paused, her mandibles clicking nervously. The readings are inconsistent. Inconsistent? How? Corvain demanded, though part of him already dreaded the answer. In his 30 years of military service across 17 different star systems, he had learned to trust his instincts. Right now, every instinct was screaming that something was fundamentally wrong with this entire operation. The cargo ship Drifter's Dream had been flagged by automated border patrol drones 3 days ago for carrying unregistered passengers through Throkery space. Standard procedure called for a single patrol cruiser to intercept, board, and process any violations. Instead, that patrol cruiser had gone silent after transmitting a single desperate message. Require immediate backup. Human aboard is ... send everything you have. The transmission had ended abruptly, and all subsequent attempts to contact the vessel had failed. Within hours, a squadron of 12 heavy cruisers had been dispatched to investigate. They too had requested reinforcements after their initial approach. Then a full battle group of 28 ships. Now, nearly the entire Third Fleet hung in space around what appeared to be a defenseless cargo hauler, and Corvain still had no clear understanding of what they were facing. The inconsistencies appear to be temporal in nature, Morgan continued, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Sensors detect a human male, approximately 30 standard years old, but the quantum signature suggests... Sir, this is going to sound impossible, but the readings indicate he's simultaneously present in multiple probability states. That's scientifically impossible, Chief Science Officer Kelm Darkwater interjected from his station. The veteran researcher had spent decades studying exotic physics phenomena, and his scaled brow was furrowed in concentration. No organic life form can exist in quantum superposition without specialized equipment. The energy requirements alone would, his words were, cut short as proximity alarms began blaring throughout the bridge. Every officer turned to their stations as sensor readings spiked across the board. Movement detected. Tactical Officer Zara Nightwind called out, "The cargo vessel. It's not moving, but something's changed. Energy readings are fluctuating in patterns I've never seen before." Corvain felt his primary heart skip a beat as he watched the tactical display update in real time. The dead cargo ship remained motionless, showing no signs of propulsion or power systems activation. Yet somehow, impossibly, it now registered as occupying a slightly different position than it had moments before. Not moving through space in any conventional sense, but simply ... elsewhere. Sir, Communications Officer Bren Silverstone's voice carried a tremor of fear. I'm receiving a transmission from Commander Rex's squadron. They've been trying to board the vessel for the past 18 hours. 18 hours? Corvain's voice rose in disbelief. That's impossible. Rex's squadron only departed 6 hours ago. According to their chronometers, sir, they've been engaged with the target for nearly a full day, they report. Significant casualties. The bridge fell silent, except for the steady hum of life support systems and the occasional beep from monitoring equipment. Corvain had commanded fleets through battles against space pirates, territorial disputes between mining corporations, and even a brief skirmish with automated defense systems left behind by an extinct civilization. He had never encountered anything that challenged his understanding of basic physics and military tactics simultaneously. "Put me through to Commander Rex," he ordered. The main viewscreen flickered to life, revealing the familiar features of Commander Jason Rex, though the normally composed officer looked haggard and exhausted. Behind him, Corvain could see crew members moving with the frantic urgency of beings pushed beyond their limits. "Admiral Corvain," Rex began without preamble, "I strongly advise against any further approach to the target vessel. We've attempted boarding procedures 7 times. Each time, our teams report successful entries, complete their initial sweep, and then they're back on our ships with no memory of what occurred inside. Meanwhile, our chronometers indicate hours have passed." "Explain the casualties," Corvain demanded. Rex's expression grew even more grim. "Not casualties in the traditional sense, sir. No one has been physically harmed, but approximately 60% of my crew is experiencing what our medical officers can only describe as temporal displacement syndrome. They remember events that haven't happened yet, or claim to have had conversations with crew members who are still assigned to other ships entirely." Through the viewscreen, Corvain could see crew members in the background moving with an odd, disconnected quality, as if they were sleepwalking through their duties. Several officers appeared to be having animated conversations with empty air, while others stood perfectly still, staring at nothing with expressions of profound confusion. "What about humans?" Corvain asked. "Have you made contact?" "That's the strangest part, Admiral. Every boarding team reports the same thing. They find a human male, mid-30s, sitting calmly in the cargo hold. He's polite, cooperative, even friendly. He answers questions readily and seems genuinely concerned about the trouble he's causing. But when they try to bring him aboard our vessels for processing ... Rex trailed off, shaking his head. "Commander? He simply isn't there anymore, sir. Not invisible, not hidden, he's just not there. But he also hasn't left. Our sensors show him continuously present on his ship, yet our boarding teams find empty corridors where moments before they were having pleasant conversations with him." Corvain felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. In all his years of military service, dealing with dozens of different species across hundreds of different worlds, he had developed a healthy respect for the unexpected. But this situation was beyond unexpected. It was beginning to feel genuinely dangerous in ways he couldn't even properly define. "Sir," Science Officer Darkwater called from his station, "I'm detecting quantum field fluctuations emanating from the cargo vessel. The pattern suggests some form of localized space-time distortion, but on a scale I've never encountered. If these readings are accurate, the entire region around that ship is experiencing temporal spatial instabilities that could potentially affect any vessel within a 50-kilometer radius." "Meaning what exactly?" Corvain demanded. "Meaning, sir, that reality itself appears to be ... flexible in the immediate vicinity of that human." As if summoned by their conversation, the communications array suddenly activated without any input from the crew. The viewscreen shifted from Commander Rex's haggard face to display the interior of the cargo vessel's modest common area. A human male sat at a small table, apparently enjoying a cup of what looked like coffee. He was indeed unremarkable in appearance. Average height, brown hair, pleasant features that wouldn't stand out in any crowd. He wore simple civilian clothing and had the relaxed demeanor of someone enjoying a quiet morning rather than someone surrounded by an entire military fleet. "Hello," the human said, looking directly at the camera with a gentle smile. "I'm sorry for all the trouble I seem to be causing. My name is David Mitchell, and I really think we should talk." The war room aboard the Vengeance of Krill had been hastily converted into a crisis command center, its polished surfaces now covered with holographic displays showing tactical formations, sensor readings, and psychological profiles. Fleet Admiral Corvain stood at the center of it all, watching his most experienced officers struggle with concepts that seemed to mock their decades of military training. "We've tried everything in the standard engagement protocols," Captain Luna Blackwood reported, her usually steady voice betraying hints of frustration. As the fleet's chief tactical officer, she had never encountered a situation that couldn't be resolved through proper application of military doctrine. Long-range weapons. Targeting is impossible. Every time we achieve a lock, the target shifts position without actually moving. Our computers can't calculate firing solutions for something that exists in multiple locations simultaneously. Strategic advisor Malik Thompson, a grizzled veteran of the corporate wars, leaned forward over the tactical display. His cybernetic implants flickered as he processed data streams from across the fleet. "Sir, I've coordinated siege operations against fortress worlds, space stations, and mobile command bases. The principle is always the same: contain, isolate, and systematically eliminate escape routes. But this target..." He gestured helplessly at the readings. "How do you contain something that appears to exist outside normal space-time?" The past 6 hours had seen the Third Fleet attempt every conventional military solution in their arsenal. Tractor beam projectors had been deployed from 3 different vectors, each one reporting successful target acquisition before the beams passed harmlessly through empty space. Boarding shuttles equipped with the latest phase detection equipment had been launched in coordinated waves, only to return with crews who insisted they had successfully completed their missions while simultaneously having no memory of actually encountering their target. "What about the stasis field generators?" Corvain asked, though he already suspected the answer. Chief Engineer Nova Reeves consulted her technical readouts with visible disgust. "Deployed at 0800 hours, Admiral. Full spectrum temporal stabilization field, enough to freeze a moon in its orbit. The field generators report successful activation and target containment. Meanwhile, our sensors show the cargo vessel continuing to drift through the field as if it doesn't exist." Dr. Sarah Winters, the fleet's chief xenopsychologist, had been studying the recorded interactions between boarding teams and the human. Her expertise in alien psychology had proved invaluable in dozens of first contact scenarios, but David Mitchell defied every model she had developed for understanding non-Thrakari behavior. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. "The psychological profile makes no sense," she reported, pulling up holographic recordings of the attempted boardings. "Watch this, here's Sergeant Pike's team making contact." The display showed armored soldiers entering the cargo hold to find David Mitchell calmly reading a book. The humans' responses indicate complete cooperation, genuine concern for our people's well-being, and what appears to be authentic confusion about why his presence is causing problems. She manipulated the controls, switching to a different angle. But notice the temporal readings on the left. According to our chronometers, this conversation lasted 43 minutes. According to the human ship's chronometer, it lasted 8 minutes. According to Sergeant Pike's suit recorder, it never happened at all. Have we considered that this might be some form of advanced technology? Asked Commander Rex Stormwind, the fleet's intelligence officer. His scarred face bore testament to years of covert operations behind enemy lines. Cloaking devices, holographic projectors, temporal manipulation fields. The technology exists. It's just never been deployed in this configuration. That was my first thought, Dr. Winters replied. But energy readings don't support it. Advanced technology leaves signatures, power consumption, exotic matter usage, quantum field manipulation. What we're seeing here requires no external energy source that we can detect. It's as if reality simply bends around this individual. Admiral. Corvain moved to the central display, studying the tactical situation with growing unease. 47 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, crewed by over 30,000 highly trained personnel, had been effectively neutralized by a single human sitting in a cargo hold drinking coffee. No shots had been fired, no weapons had been deployed, no hostile actions had been taken by either side. Yet somehow, his entire fleet had been rendered completely ineffective. "Sir," Communications Officer Riley Goldstein called from her station, "we're receiving another transmission from the cargo vessel." The main display shifted to show David Mitchell again, still sitting at his small table. This time, however, he appeared to be reviewing what looked like official documents, while simultaneously writing in a handwritten journal. The casual multitasking somehow made the situation even more surreal. "Admiral Corvain," David said, looking up from his paperwork with an apologetic smile, "I can see that you're having trouble with standard procedures. I want you to know that I truly appreciate your patience, and I'd like to help resolve this situation as quickly as possible." "Mr. Mitchell," Corvain replied, his diplomatic training taking over despite the circumstances, "we are prepared to discuss terms for your surrender and processing. However, we require you to disable whatever technology you're using to interfere with our operations." David's expression grew genuinely puzzled. "I'm sorry, Admiral, but I'm not using any technology. I'm just me. I know that's probably not very helpful, but it's the truth. Our sensors indicate massive temporal and spatial distortions centered on your vessel," Dr. Winters interjected. "Such effects require enormous energy expenditures and sophisticated equipment." "I understand why you'd think that," David replied, closing his journal and giving them his full attention. "But I promise you, I don't have any special equipment, and I'm not trying to cause these effects. They just happen around me sometimes." "Sometimes?" Commander Stormwind leaned forward, his intelligence training focusing on the word choice. "Are you saying these phenomena are not under your conscious control?" David considered the question carefully. "It depends on what you mean by control. I can influence them to some degree, but they're not really something I turn on or off like a machine. It's more like breathing, I suppose. You can hold your breath for a while, or breathe faster or slower, but you can't really stop breathing entirely without consequences." The implications of this statement sent a chill through the assembled officers. If the human was telling the truth, then they weren't dealing with advanced technology that could be disabled or confiscated. They were dealing with something far more fundamental, an individual whose very existence seemed to alter the basic laws of physics in his immediate vicinity. "Admiral," Captain Blackwood said quietly, "I'm receiving reports from the outer patrol squadrons. Ships that have been in proximity to the target for more than 12 hours are beginning to experience equipment malfunctions. Navigation systems are providing conflicting readings, weapons arrays are targeting friendly vessels, and several crews report that their ship's internal chronometers are running at different speeds in different sections." "How different?" Corvain asked, though he dreaded the answer. "The Crimson Talon reports that their engine room is experiencing time at 110% normal rate, while their bridge operates at 90% normal rate. Their crew is physically aging at different rates, depending on which section of the ship they're assigned." 2. The war room fell silent as the full implications became clear. This wasn't just a matter of capturing or neutralizing a single target. The human's presence was having increasingly severe effects on every vessel in the fleet. If the pattern continued, they would soon face a choice between abandoning their mission or risking the complete breakdown of their ship's fundamental systems. "Sir," Dr. Winters said slowly, "I think we need to consider the possibility that we're not dealing with a military threat in any conventional sense. This individual might represent something entirely outside our understanding of what's possible. Admiral Corvain stared at the tactical display, watching the readings fluctuate in patterns that defied analysis. His fleet had been designed to handle any threat the galaxy might produce: hostile alien civilizations, rogue artificial intelligences, cosmic phenomena that could destroy entire star systems. But they had never prepared for the possibility that a single, apparently friendly human could render their most advanced technology useless simply by existing in the same general area. Options? He asked quietly. The silence that followed was perhaps the most telling response of all. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Admiral Vex Corvain found himself facing a situation for which there were no standard solutions. No tactical alternatives, and no clear path forward. On the display, David Mitchell had returned to his reading, occasionally taking notes in his journal with the unhurried pace of someone who had all the time in the world. Admiral Corvain stood alone in his private quarters, staring out at the stars through the reinforced viewport. The reports had grown increasingly dire over the past 4 hours. 3 ships had already been forced to withdraw from the formation after their crews began experiencing what the medical teams euphemistically called temporal dissociation syndrome. The symptoms ranged from mild confusion to complete breaks with reality. The secure communication panel chimed, displaying the seal of high command. Admiral Victoria Hawthorne's weathered face appeared on the screen, her expression grave. As Supreme Fleet Commander, she had overseen military operations across 17 sectors, but even she looked troubled by the reports she'd been receiving. "Vex, I'm authorizing Protocol Omega-7, she said without preamble. "Complete orbital bombardment of the target vessel and surrounding space. Collateral damage is acceptable." Corvain felt his secondary hearts skip a beat. Protocol Omega-7 had only been used twice in Thrakari history, both times against extinct worlds that posed existential threats to galactic civilization. "Admiral, with respect, we still don't understand what we're dealing with. Orbital bombardment might not be effective against something that exists in quantum superposition." "Then we use the void cannons," Hawthorne replied coldly. "If conventional matter can't touch him, we'll hit him with weapons that unmake matter itself. I'm dispatching the Dreadnought Reality's End with its experimental arsenal. Whatever this human is, we cannot allow him to reach populated systems." The transmission ended, leaving Corvain alone with a decision that would define the rest of his career. He could follow orders and potentially murder an apparently innocent civilian, or he could continue trying to find a solution that didn't violate every principle he'd sworn to uphold as a fleet officer. His contemplation was interrupted by another impossible development. Lieutenant Commander Lek Morvan burst into his quarters without requesting permission, a breach of protocol so severe it would normally result in court-martial. "Sir, you need to see this immediately," she gasped, her compound eyes wide with something between terror and wonder. "The human ... he's not on his ship anymore." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as every sensor operator tried to make sense of readings that defied comprehension. David Mitchell was no longer aboard the cargo vessel, that much was clear. What was unclear was where exactly he had gone, because according to their instruments, he was everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. "Sensor readings show him in the main hangar bay of the Vengeance of Krill," reported Tactical Officer Nightwind, her voice tight with disbelief. "But also in the engineering section of the Storm's Edge, the medical bay of the Cosmic Fury, and approximately 37 other locations across the fleet." "That's impossible," Chief Science Officer Darkwater muttered, running diagnostics on every system under his control. "No being can achieve quantum omnipresence without massive technological assistance. The energy requirements alone would ... His words trailed off as David Mitchell stepped onto the bridge, through what appeared to be empty air. No doors had opened, no transporters had activated, no spatial distortions had been detected. One moment the bridge was occupied only by its regular crew, and the next moment a human in simple civilian clothing was standing near the central command station, looking around with genuine curiosity. "This is an impressive ship," David said conversationally, apparently oblivious to the fact that he had just materialized in the middle of the most secure location on the vessel. "I've never seen Thrakari engineering up close before. The integration of quantum processing with traditional computing systems is really elegant." Every weapon on the bridge was drawn and aimed at him within seconds. David noticed this development with mild surprise, but no apparent concern. "Oh," he said softly, "I didn't mean to startle anyone. I just thought it might be easier to talk in person rather than through the communication systems. Those temporal distortions can make audio transmission unreliable." Admiral Corvain found his voice, though it took considerable effort. "Mr. Mitchell, how did you get aboard my ship?" "I walked," David replied, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. "Well, not exactly walking, I suppose. It's more like stepping between spaces that are already connected but just don't know it yet. Our shields, our defensive systems are very impressive," David interrupted gently, "but they're designed to keep out things that travel through normal space-time. I don't really do that anymore." Dr. Winters approached cautiously, her scientific curiosity overcoming her survival instincts. "Mr. Mitchell, what exactly are you?" David considered the question with the same careful attention he'd given their earlier inquiries. "I'm human," he said finally. "Or at least I was human when I started, but I've been changed." "Changed how?" Admiral Corvain demanded, though part of him was beginning to suspect an answer that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the universe. David settled into a nearby chair without being invited, his casual demeanor a stark contrast to the tension filling the bridge. "About 18 months ago, I was working as a cargo hauler, running supplies between mining colonies in the Outer Rim. Nothing glamorous, but it paid the bills and I liked the solitude." He paused, seeming to organize his thoughts. "I was making a routine delivery to Kepler Station when something went wrong with my jump drive. Instead of dropping out of hyperspace at my destination, I didn't drop out at all. I kept going, deeper into hyperspace than anyone has ever gone before." The bridge crew exchanged glances. Extended exposure to raw hyperspace was invariably fatal. The human energies required to maintain molecular cohesion simply couldn't withstand the fundamental forces present in the higher dimensions. "That should have killed you," Dr. Winters observed. "It did," David replied matter-of-factly. "Several times, actually. But each time I died, I found myself still there, still conscious, still somehow experiencing existence even without a physical form. Eventually, I realized that death wasn't really permanent in that space. Neither was life, for that matter. The normal rules just don't apply." He stood and walked to the tactical display, gesturing at the readings that showed impossible energy fluctuations throughout the fleet. "When I finally found my way back to normal space-time, I discovered that the experience had changed me in fundamental ways. I exist in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. I can perceive probability flows, causality streams, the quantum foundations that underlie what you think of as reality." "But you're still human," Commander Stormwind said, his intelligence training focusing on the contradictions. "You think, you feel, you communicate in ways we can understand." "My consciousness is still human," David agreed. "But my existence, that's become something else entirely. I can step between moments, exist in multiple locations, perceive time as a navigable dimension rather than a linear progression. And unfortunately," he added with genuine regret, "my presence tends to destabilize local space-time for anyone who isn't similarly adapted." The implications were staggering. They weren't dealing with advanced technology or hostile alien capabilities. They were facing a human being who had been fundamentally transformed by exposure to forces beyond current scientific understanding. Someone who had, in essence, evolved beyond the physical limitations that governed normal existence. "Admiral," David continued, "I need you to understand something crucial. I'm not your enemy, and I never was. I'm trying to get home to Earth, but every time I attempt to use conventional transportation, situations like this develop. Your people see what they interpret as a threat, and they respond with military force that can't actually affect me, but can seriously harm your crews." He gestured toward the tactical displays showing the fleet's deteriorating condition. "Right now, 17 of your ships are experiencing cascading temporal failures. Your people are aging at different rates, experiencing memory displacement, and in some cases beginning to exist partially outside normal time. If this continues for another 6 hours, the effects will become permanent. Then leave," Admiral Corvain said desperately. "Just go, disappear the way you appeared, and we'll withdraw our forces." "I wish it were that simple," David replied sadly. "The damage is already spreading. Your ships have been exposed to my quantum signature for too long. Simply removing myself won't reverse the effects. It will just leave your people trapped in an increasingly unstable spacetime bubble." Dr. Winters leaned forward, her scientific mind racing through the possibilities. "Then what do you propose?" David's expression grew serious. "There's only one solution that I can see. I need to consciously extend my dimensional state to encompass your entire fleet, stabilize the quantum fluctuations, and then gradually return everyone to normal spacetime. But that requires ... double quotes, he hesitated. "It requires me to temporarily take responsibility for the existence of every person in your fleet." "Meaning what, exactly?" Corvain demanded. "Meaning that for approximately 12 hours, you'll all exist as extensions of my consciousness. You'll retain your individual personalities, your memories, your sense of self, but your fundamental existence will be anchored to mine rather than to normal reality. It's the only way to repair the damage that's been done." The bridge fell silent as the crew contemplated the implications. They were being asked to surrender not just their ships or their mission, but their very existence to a being whose capabilities they barely understood. "And if we refuse?" Commander Stormwind asked. "Then in approximately 4 hours your fleet will fragment across multiple timeline streams," David replied gently. "Some of your ships will cease to exist entirely. Others will be trapped in temporal loops. A few might survive, but their crews will spend the rest of their lives shifting unpredictably between past, present, and future." Admiral Corvain looked around his bridge at officers who had served with him for years, people he considered family. "The choice was no choice at all. What do we need to do?" he asked quietly. The process was unlike anything any of them had experienced. One moment, Admiral Corvain was standing on the bridge of his ship, surrounded by the familiar sounds and sensations of a functioning starship. The next moment, he existed in a space that wasn't really space, experiencing time that wasn't really time, while remaining completely aware of his individual identity within something infinitely larger. He could perceive David Mitchell's consciousness like a vast ocean, surrounding his own awareness, not controlling or dominating, but providing the fundamental stability that allowed existence itself to continue. And within that ocean, he could sense the presence of every other person in the fleet, 30,000 individual minds floating in the same impossible space while their bodies remained safely aboard their ships. The experience lasted both forever and no time at all. When normal existence finally reasserted itself, Corvain found himself back on his bridge, but everything had changed. His instruments showed normal readings, his crew appeared healthy and alert, and the dangerous temporal fluctuations that had been building throughout the fleet had completely disappeared. "Status report," he called out, surprised by how steady his own voice sounded. "All systems nominal, Admiral," Lieutenant Commander Morgan replied, though her expression carried the Same wonder that Corvain felt. Fleet-wide communications show all vessels reporting normal operations, no temporal anomalies detected. David Mitchell was still present on the bridge, but something fundamental had changed about his presence. The reality warping effects that had made him impossible to contain were gone, replaced by what appeared to be a perfectly ordinary human being. "The quantum anchor points have been stabilized," David explained, noting their confusion. "Your ships and crews are now properly synchronized with normal spacetime. The dangerous effects should gradually fade over the next few days. And you?" Dr. Winters asked. "What happens to you now?" David smiled, and for the first time since this crisis began, it was a completely normal human expression. "I've learned how to exist in your reality without disrupting it. The process of stabilizing your fleet taught me how to compress myself. I suppose I'm still what I became, but I can now choose to interact with normal spacetime without causing problems." He moved toward the bridge entrance, then paused. "Admiral, I want to thank you and your people. You could have destroyed my ship from a distance, but you chose to try understanding instead. That choice may have saved more lives than you realize." "What do you mean?" Corvain asked. "There are others like me out there," David replied quietly. "Humans who have been changed by exposure to forces beyond normal understanding. Some of them haven't learned to control their abilities yet. When you encounter them, and you will please remember that being different doesn't necessarily mean being dangerous." He stepped through the bridge doors, and this time he used them normally. Within minutes, sensor readings confirmed that he had returned to his cargo vessel using a conventional shuttle. The ship's engines activated normally, and David Mitchell departed the system at standard cruise velocity, leaving behind a fleet of vessels whose crews would spend years trying to understand what they had experienced. Admiral Corvain stood at his command station, looking out at the stars that suddenly seemed both more familiar and more mysterious than they had before. His fleet had responded to what they believed was a simple security incident, only to discover something that challenged their understanding of existence itself. The official report would describe the incident as a first contact scenario involving an individual with advanced spatial manipulation technology. The truth that they had surrendered their entire fleet to a human who existed beyond the normal boundaries of reality would remain classified at the highest levels. But as Admiral, Corvain watched David Mitchell's cargo vessel disappear into the cosmic distance. He couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter had been less about capturing a dangerous individual and more about discovering that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than any of them had previously imagined. In the depths of space, 47 warships turned toward home, their crews forever changed by the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victories come not from fighting, but from choosing to understand. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.